Very occasionally, when doing these videos, an opportunity occurs, a once in a lifetime opportunity to get some footage of something that, well, I'd never seen before, and probably the majority of the British public have never seen before. Such an opportunity is in the tree behind me, because I'm back here at Clumber Park again with another two updates of the advancement of the nest and the colony of hornets behind me. It's the European hornet, Vespa crabro, and it's a fabulous thing. It's an insect though that needs to be taken seriously and showed the utmost respect, and that's what I've done during the course of this video. It may seem as though I've been particularly stupid, but when I filmed this nest behind me, the camera has been placed in front of the nest. One of the tripod legs has been extended out so that it's easily retrievable. Well, it wasn't all that easy in the end. As you'll see towards the end of the second video, things got a little bit hairy. But during the course of the two lots of video that you're going to see today, which take place over 17 minutes, you'll see a dramatic difference in the nest. The nest has changed in size and in shape, and of course the population of hornets within the nest has also increased at a dramatic rate, especially in the second half of this video, and how they reacted to the camera also changed en masse, and it's a particularly exciting bit of footage that I've got at the end. I took the utmost and greatest care. I've remained sting free throughout the experience, and that's because I know the insects that I'm dealing with. You have to be careful with hornets and wasps, and so use was made of cover, reasonably long arms, a stick and a tripod leg extended outwards. But everything worked out great in the end, and the nest is peaceful as can be. It wasn't like that, as you will see towards the end of the video. But the 4 visits that I've had to this site have showed what remarkable insects hornets are. They are masters of construction, and the nest is just something of awe really to me. I think it's absolutely stunning, created by the workers over hundreds and hundreds of hours. So sit back, make yourself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, or maybe something a little bit stronger, and enjoy the next 17 minutes. It's the Hymenopteran equivalent of a tropical fish tank really, in a doctor's surgery. But it's remarkable footage. I'm really pleased with it because it's so dramatic. Well, here we are. Another very windy day again. It always seems to be windy when I visit this colony. But you can see great difference in the nest. I'll put a similar kind of shot in from previous visits just to show you how the nest has changed. But those vent-like structures down the right hand side of the nest, as we look at it, have become more extensive, and there's more of them, as you can see here. You can see the different layers of wood pulp, the different colours caused by workers visiting different sources of wood in order to obtain that wood pulp. But those structures down the right hand side of the nest, they don't seem to do anything. They're not sort of entrances to the nest, and whether they're vents or not I don't know, but they all seem to be completely closed off. It may be very different inside the nest itself, and the entrance isn't that what seems to be an obvious entrance at the bottom or near the bottom of the nest. The main entrance to the nest is further below that, and the hornets, the workers themselves, come into the nest or come out of the nest right at the bottom of the screen. But notice the worker who seems to be quite redundant at the top of the nest. This one, for the majority of this particular visit on 31st of July, remained like it is now. It did have some interaction with some workers coming to the nest. But it wasn't until I reviewed the footage that I realised why it is probably, as I've mentioned, redundant, or it seems to be redundant. It's not having a role as a guard, because otherwise it would be at the bottom of the nest near the nest entrance. But it has one wing, and I think that I may be glorifying it, I don't know, but I think because it only has one wing, it's ineffective and of no use or little use to the colony itself. But you can see there a little bit of activity from it. It does come further down and it does interact a little bit with some workers returning with food to the nest. Otherwise it sits at the top like that. But the nest, someone remarked in the comment section from the previous video that it's almost like a heart, and indeed it does remind me of a heart. It's an incredible structure. I'd love to see what it's like inside. I know what it's like inside, but I'd still like to see it. But we have to make do with this kind of view. And this view really is a view that I never thought I would get. You can see one worker about to leave the nest, just coming out, having a look around. There goes another one and another one. You can see now, and you can hear as well, lots more activity around the camera, and that activity made it difficult to get the camera away from the nest. It was a good 3 feet away from the actual nest itself and slightly lower down, so as not to obstruct the worker hornets flights in and out of the nest, but they still didn't like it. And during the course of this video, this first part on 31st of July, they did start to have a little bit of a go, if not attack, the camera. Once the camera was pulled out of the way, they ceased their interest in the camera. But generally, it was fairly quiet on the 31st of July, but the main differences, the nest was considerably larger and the activity from the hornets was more. There's that redundant worker. You can see now that it's only got the one wing. What an amazing structure though. And there's a guard at the bottom there, look. Make a note of the yellow phase, because you'll see a lot more of those as we get towards later in the video. That worker comes down. It's almost as if it's been cast out by the rest of the colony. More foraging workers coming out, having a look around, and then thinking about flying off. The rate of increase in the numbers of the hornets has quite surprised me, as has the building of the nest. I didn't think it would get as big as how you'll see it in the second part of this video. More guards at the bottom of the nest, at the nest entrance, and you still can't see, even from this angle, that nest entrance. Here comes another one. It's a fascinating thing to watch. It really is, the comings and goings of this colony. As much as people don't like them, you have to admire their success and their ability to work for each other for the good of the colony. But 2 guards at the bottom, and that lone individual sat quietly at the top of the nest. Of course, that one will be relying on others for food. I actually felt quite sorry for it, that not so much when you see later in the video if it was still here. But you can see the marvellous structure to the nest. There's another worker goes off foraging. Increasing noises and attacks now to the camera. And here's a bit more of a distant shot. Our one-winged worker sat at the top of the nest. Guards at the bottom. What an amazing thing. The activity that's going on inside that nest is amazing. And there will probably now almost certainly be 3 lots of, or layers of cells, largest one at the top and then getting smaller. And I just wonder that, or if the nest is being extended inside when these constructions are built, these almost vent-like constructions are built, the inside of the nest, what was the outer part of the nest a few weeks ago, is removed so that space is created. There's also that bit at the top, that right at the top, that was started and has been left. I thought that might be developed and come down and over the whole of the nest. But lots of buzzing. If you don't like buzzing, you certainly won't like it in a bit. But there was increased interest in the camera. But I remain sting-free. I have the greatest respect for these, and while I was filming, the camera, as I said, was about 3 feet from the nest itself. There was a zoom on the camera, and I was a good 20 or 30 feet away, sat on a log. Now here's the visit from the 11th of August. This is where it gets interesting and just a tad scary at times. And you can see there, that's the view from the nest, and there's the nest. Even looks bigger from where we see it here. But look at the bottom of the nest, how more populated it is. It gets increasingly more populated. I had to be really careful. I had to wait for a quiet moment before putting the camera in front of the nest. And then it varied in terms of, well, I took 2 lots of footage. One was about 2 or 3 minutes. This is that one, but look at the nest now. What a structure it is. I feel really privileged to have got this. Yeah, I had to be very careful because you have to realise that that nest means everything to the workers. And it really, with wasps and hornets, it's really a case of, well, all for one and one for all sort of thing. This is their life reason. Collecting food for the larvae inside and constructing the nest. The nest, it's amazed me how ever-changing it is. There's almost like a couple of vents that's been opened towards the top of the nest. And you'll notice there's no sign of the one-winged worker. Some construction work going on. It must be a network of some tunnels and underneath the surface here before they get to the main chamber. But you can see now, and you'll hear also, how the population has increased again. So this was about 11 or 12 days after the previous visit here. And what a difference. The nest is much bigger. There's actually a stick propped up in that hole, and the nest is now touching that. When I first got here this morning, I thought someone had been messing and put that stick in and had a go at these, but if they'd have tried that, then they probably wouldn't have lived to tell the tale, not without a number of stings. But I realised that that stick had been there all the time, even going back to my first visit a few weeks ago. But the construction, the rate of construction, the rate of increase in size of the nest. There you can see that stick. You can see now how the nest has completely changed. It's a fabulous structure, it really is. But also look at the number of guards at the base of the nest, at the entrance. The entrance still isn't visible, it's just around that left hand sort of lip in the trunk there. But more workers coming in, more workers coming out, and as you'll hear, increased numbers of workers around the camera. On this visit they did start to become a problem because there was more of them. And wait until the end of this video and you'll see how much of a problem hornets can become. But the general day-to-day activity of this nest goes on with workers coming in there, guards at the bottom, checking those workers as they come in. They don't like the camera at all. I thought they might get used to it. This entire clip lasts 8 minutes, but about 3 minutes of that involved me trying to pull the camera away without getting stung. I managed it, but I'm quite surprised that I managed it. If it wasn't for having the tripod leg extended and then having a longer stick to pull it, but I had to be careful and I had to use cover. You have to give these the utmost respect, and it may seem to some of you that I didn't, but I honestly did. I have been stung by hornets. I found it no worse than a wasp sting, to be honest, but as we're near the end of the video, just start to watch the workers and the number of workers around the nest. This is nothing, this is mild, but say lots of workers now having a look at the camera as they come in, and some even on the way out. I thought that if it was just kept out of the main flight line in and just below a little bit, they wouldn't bother about it. They might have a quick look at it, but wouldn't bother about it. How wrong was I? Plenty of workers altering the nest there, just keeping an eye on things. Fascinating to watch, really, really fascinating. But the nest structure itself is just amazing, absolutely amazing. It's a thing of beauty. You might not think what's inside it is a thing of beauty, but it's an amazing feat of construction, almost like a living organism in itself. The little yellow face looking at us from the edge of the tree. You'll be seeing lots of little yellow faces. In a bit, another worker comes into the nest. Plenty of other worker hornets coming in too. But this scene is about to change. Still generally quite peaceful. But now the amount of activity starts to change. The camera becomes a stronger focus of attention. And Now there's more little yellow faces, all lined up. Word is now getting about within that colony that they're not happy with the camera. More workers start to emerge from the nest. The amount of hornets flying around the nest now, as more workers flood out, and this is where it starts to get interesting, and it really kicks off at this point. Just watch the number of hornets coming out of the nest. More and more pour out, lots of workers around the camera, and as soon as I pulled the camera away, within a few minutes it all settled down again.